Hi, welcome to Voices of Somerville. I'm Sonja Darai. I'm the director of the Office of Somerville Commissions in the Health and Human Services Department for the City of Somerville. And I'm bringing you a show today that is a little bit dear to my heart. I'm really interested in helping the community find new ways, or actually probably some long standard ideas of thinking about how they can work on their own needs, their own development. And so today I'm really glad to bring a community resident, Molly Froelich. She is here, she's a life coach, and we're going to be chatting about what it is to be a life coach if anyone's interested in becoming one, and then also to learn about when do people choose to use a life coach or a career coach. So sit back and enjoy the show. So Molly, thank you very much for coming.
Thanks for inviting me, Sonja.
Now, I know we were just chatting a minute ago about the fact that we're both residents here, but we hail from somewhere else. Can you tell me a little bit about where you come from?
Sure. Well, I've lived in Somerville. Well, I've lived in Massachusetts since 1986 and Somerville since 1989. But I originally grew up in Rockford, Illinois.
Oh.
So I'm a Midwesterner like you.
Yeah. That's awesome, and just so people know, I'm from Minnesota. And I've been here since after you. So you get longer credentials for having been here, because I've only been here since '99. So, have you always been a life coach? What have you been doing in to get to where you are?
I've always worked with people in some capacity. I've worked as a GED instructor with out of school youth. I've worked at an employee assistance program, counseling and advising employees of Fortune 500 companies. I've worked in the substance abuse treatment field, and I've been a coach since 2005.
Oh, wow.
So I've always worked with people in some capacity.
So did you do, you've been doing the life coach kind of for about 15 years now. Mm-hmm. And what takes
10 years.
10 years. Oh, yeah. 10 years. My math is bad. And so before becoming a life coach, you had a people's directed field. What kind of like background takes to get to that work? And then we'll go into like what got you to where you are.
Sure. Well, I can just talk personally about my own background, but I have a master's degree in counseling psychology. So I have a foundation in psychology, and like I said before, a lifetime of work experience in psychology and teaching and guidance and that sort of thing. In 2004, I realized I wasn't really going to be a one-on-one therapist, but I really love working one-on-one with people. And I was trying to figure out what's the best route for me to go. And I wanted something that was very strengths-based, very focused on people's own wisdom and strength and power, and just being an equal partner with a client to help them achieve their goals. I didn't want a position where I was viewing the client as broken. I wanted people to work with people from a place of strength. And so I started researching coaching, and that's what I found, that it really was a field where you worked one-on-one with people to bring out the best in people. And that's what I decided I wanted to do. So I pursued coaching as a field after that.
Now I'm hearing from my experience, because I grew up in a lot of sports, my coaches were the people who sought the best and worked on any of the challenges. Is there a lot of comparisons between a sports coach as a kind of just an example and a life coach?
Yeah, I think that's an astute observation. The word coach comes from coaching. The word coach in the sense of life and career coach comes from coaching in the sense of sports, and really being a guide and being a motivator, being your own personal cheerleader, someone that's going to help you achieve and transform into what you really want to be in your life. So yes, there's a lot of comparisons there, and the origins are really there from sports.
Right, and there's none of the carryover of like some of the basketball coaches or coaches where they're just like beating you down and trying to, I don't even know the goal of why they yell so hard at somebody, but like it's really the whatever I had a coach, it was always somebody who they looked for like the best, and then tweaked the little pieces, or sometimes in my batting like some of the things that needed to be worked on, and so they were also kind of straight straight talking, saying, so here's something that's happening, and you want to, I know your goal is to be here, so if you want to be there, you're going to need to do the following things. And it seemed to be really straight.
That's another good comparison with life and career coaching, Sonja, because if you hire a coach, you really want somebody that's going to be honest with you, be a keen observer of you and your patterns and your habits, and someone that's going to speak to you honestly and clearly about, excuse me, what you need to work on and what's working. And what's working, do more of. What you need to work on, how are we going to fix it? How are we going to put some effort into that to make it better? But always being a good observer and always being honest and saying what needs to have work done.
When you're thinking of I'm not even sure if I should look at it from a client looking to choose a life coach or a life coach looking to support a client. What are the comparisons between a life coach and a therapist? Where do they have similarities, yep. and where do they now you need to go to a therapist,
Sure.
for that kind of thing?
I get that question a lot from people, and so that's a really important distinction to point out. Coaching really deals with the here and now, the present. Mostly, where are you right now? Where do you want to be in your life? And how are you going to get there in manageable steps? Therapy might have some of those goals, but it also does a lot more with digging back into the past to sort of do a lot of insight-oriented work from your family of origin, from past traumas and past issues that you've had, and how you're going to heal from those. Coaching doesn't work as much with that type of healing from past hurts, insight-oriented, mental health-oriented. Coaching doesn't work with necessarily with depression, anxiety, some of the common things that that therapists work with. Coaching is really more about your life circumstances, more practical, your life circumstances, how are you going to get where you want to be.
So do you have clients that might have both? So
yes.
They're working on their needs, their emotional needs, their background, mm-hmm. while also trying to get to a particular place.
Absolutely. And coaching and therapy often work hand in hand really well together. When I'm first talking to a client, if they're talking about issues of depression and anxiety and things like that being the primary thing that they need help with, that might be somebody that I would refer on. If they're talking about their life circumstances that they need to change and depression is starting to creep in as a result of that, I might work together with that client and they would work with their own therapist at the same time to deal with the depression issues. And that makes sense.
Yeah.
Sometimes these issues, you can't really divine them out very well, but it's kind of a fine line in some cases. But coaching and therapy are absolutely good partners together.
Right. Not that the coach and the therapist are mixing their notes or anything. It's not an interactive.
No, it's
in
not.
That level. It's the client that's bringing the benefits of both to each other.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's not really the client. The therapist and the coach working as a team. Although that's an interesting idea. Maybe we should pursue that. Generally, it's the client has his or her own therapist and also works with me as a coach and finds that those two supports are a great complement to each other.
Yeah, yeah. I remember when I had my second son and I had someone who was helping with nursing. I had the pediatrician who was helping to make sure that, that was working.
Yes.
And then I had my own midwife who was helping me. But the three of them, because they were in the same institution, could communicate and make sure that, she seems kooky, but she seems to be on the right track. So they were able to more communicate. But I think that was because there was a more overlap of the intentions of it, whereas it seems the individual needs to find from either the therapist that maybe they're ready to start working on current goals, or learn from the coach that before getting to really start working or while working on the goal, you go talk to a therapist that can really dig into some of the things that might be barriers.
Yeah, and when you bring up your example with all the different services for your child, I think it's a good comparison with coaching too, just in that a lot of people think, oh, I shouldn't have a coach. I shouldn't need any help with anything. And we do need therapists. We do need coaches. There's a lot of challenges in this life that we're all dealing with. You, I, everybody.
Right.
And, things could be a lot easier and a lot better if we got the right services, the right help for what we need. And it's the same thing with taking care of your child. All of those different resources help you to raise, it's almost like it takes a village, right?
Right.
All of those resources help you to raise a healthy and happy child.
Right.
We're the same way as adults. We have growth needs, we have challenges, and we need help sometimes.
Right. Kelly Clarkson was just being interviewed today, and she has a song about wanting help, about getting help. And so she said, and she, in her interview, she's like, no, like we have this culture that says you're supposed to do it all on your own.
Right.
It's like, but that's not how most people get by. You get it through that interactivity.
Right,
the
and I
support of it.
think she's right. I mean, our culture does discourage us from asking for help, and we're sort of a pull yourself up by your bootstraps culture here, or keep it within the family, or whatever the messages are.
Right.
And to sort of branch out a little bit, and even asking a friend for help is hard for a lot of people, and I always encourage my coaching clients to do that too.
Right, to build a support network where they can share, I'm not where I want to be, I'm not getting the, all of the things I think I should be getting accomplished, or,
Yes.
and I brought some, life coach in, like expose that, I'm asking for help and get support from people.
Yes, absolutely. And I think of my clients' family and friends as sort of, my backup team, basically, because when I'm working with clients, for one thing, I'm helping them build their social network most of the time, because a lot of times that's an issue. But for the people that are very close to them in their lives, those are the people that can be sort of enlisted as the foot soldiers in helping this person and being a support. One example might be that I would give a client a journaling assignment on a particular thing. And that client might, be able to write that journaling assignment, and then the next step would be talk that journaling assignment over with your wife. And through the process of writing, and then talking with somebody that you're close with, see what growth happens, see what comes out of that conversation.
Yeah, I like the idea of, that it almost, allows somebody to be vulnerable with someone that's in their life, and then that's where the growth of that relationship can happen. And I know that
absolutely, it's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
Yeah.
You really, all of a sudden, you have somebody that is an ally,
Yes.
and instead of just somebody who's a coexister,
Right.
So I'm just wondering, do people come to a life coach when things are completely shattered and broken, or do they come to a life coach and a career coach when, what are some different kind of examples of when somebody can come?
Sure. I mean, people certainly do come to coaching when things are really, really bad and really falling apart and they really need help. But other people come when there's just one aspect of their life. Let's say they have they feel stuck in a job. That might be an example. I get a lot of career requests for help. And with that one aspect, it has reverberations in every aspect of their life. So it might not be that their whole life is falling apart, but they're starting to feel it in other aspects of their life, the stress of being in the wrong job. And so we might really focus in on that as an issue and try and work on what's next for them.
Yeah. So that, like you say, well, what are you doing now, and where are you, like, have you had dreams? Is it kind of like, what color is your parachute kind of strategies, helping them to kind of divine some hidden talents?
It's a variety of different tools like that. A lot of times, I said earlier that we don't go into the past, but actually with career clients, we do somewhat go into the past and say, when was a time when you felt really alive,
right,
in work or in any pursuit that you did? What did you want to be when you grew up, when you were a child? Before all of these sort of blockades came got in the way.
Right.
A lot of questions like that can help people really think about, gee, what do I want to be doing? What is important to me? Also, what do you like to do in your spare time? What really gets you jazzed, and
Right.
what do you enjoy, what does get you excited, and try and start from where they are to start to explore other ideas.
Yeah.
In other cases, people know what they want to do next, but they don't know how to get there. And so then we have a different sort of strategy.
That was really good. What people may remember is the Women's Commission promoted you to talk, and one of the things that I saw that two of the commissioners were looking at, what have they been kind of wanting to accomplish, and now they're actually chatting to each other to check in to see, are you getting there? And so we were doing goal setting as our topic, and so I thought that was really a great topic for people to kind of hone in on, which is, you know, where do you want to be? And you had good tools that kind of helped to draw that out.
Yeah, I mean, goal setting is a really great tool to use for some people. Not everybody likes goal setting,
Right.
and not everybody works well with it. But I'd say about half of my clients do work well with goal setting, and for those clients, we use some of the tools that I shared in the workshop that we did recently. And I'm glad to hear that some of your commissioners are making progress.
Yeah.
It's interesting to me. I think it's almost like when we start to shine a light on these important things in our lives, when we start to pay attention to things, that's what tips the balance and helps us move. And I think a lot of times that's what coaching can do for people,
Right.
is just give you the space and the time to focus on what you need to focus on for your own development.
One thing I wanted to ask, because you were talking about, because I'm somebody who is driven by goal setting. That's like, so I'm all
You're
over
one
that.
of those goal
I'm a
people.
goal person. I set goals every morning.
Yeah.
You know, what am I trying to accomplish in the next 5 minutes? Let's
Right.
make a list. But then I know that there's people who that's not
Yeah.
that's not the right way. Can you kind of describe that kind of, you know, so that kind of brings out that person?
Sure. Yeah, one of my sort of specialties is I work with a lot of creative people. I work with a lot of artistic people, photographers, a lot of writers, visual artists. Some of those folks don't tend to be the most goal-oriented people. That's not how, but they get a lot done and they work hard. But they tend to be a little bit more, sort of free-thinking, free-form. How am I going to feel in the next moment? That's what I'll do. And that's beautiful. It's a beautiful way to get things done if you're that type of person. So for those folks, again, it's a lot of figuring out what works best for you personally. So that involves a lot of really keen listening to them and observing them, to see what works best for that personality.
Right.
Who doesn't want to make lists,
Right.
but who does want to work hard and get a lot done in their lives.
Right, that they feel that they're not accomplishing what they, or maybe they don't. Maybe they're feeling like right here, right now, isn't where I want to be, or I'm not sure exactly if I'm always goal setting, and so I'm like, so I might not be the best to articulate
Well,
it. But
here's an example. I've had clients that were artistic clients, let's say a writer, and they say, well, I've always heard you're supposed to get up at 6 in the morning and write until 9. And getting up early is the way to go. You've got to get up early every day and be very disciplined and get this done. So they've never been able to be successful at this before. So we look at it and we say, well, let's try it. Let's try it for 3 days, 3 different days in the week. You're going to have to get to bed earlier, because a lot of these folks, might want to stay up later, and they're just more whatever the sort of mood is, kind of wherever the mood is taking them. So get up earlier, try this for 3 days and see how it works. And sometimes they try it and it just doesn't feel right, but we're paying attention to it. We're asking the question, is this the right way?
Right.
And then we have to, the thing is, we have to sort of let them let go of that sort of societal idea that this is what I'm supposed to do, and figure out, when do you feel like writing during the day? What time of day are your thoughts flowing? And let's focus on that.
do most people find that their thoughts flow better in the evening?
It varies.
It does vary.
It varies.
Yeah, they kind of find that sweet spot.
I think a lot of folks that I've worked with that are writers either have a particular time of day that works best for them, and a lot of times it could be the afternoon or the evening, or it's a when the feeling comes over me type of thing, and then they need to pay attention to tune into themselves to notice when that feeling comes over, and then make the time to do it right then.
Yeah, I think Bob Dylan. Is that his name, right? I was thinking of John.
Famous folk singer, Bob
right,
Dylan?
Yeah, Bob Dylan. I was thinking of Johnny Cash, and I'm
Yeah.
like, wait, so I'm getting the names mixed up. And so he broke his leg in the 60s, and then he had an amazing, like, just prolific, and then now they have a huge suitcase full of all his songs. He just
Absolutely.
broke the leg and just like wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote and wrote.
Well, I'm very interested in studying people's creative process like that. So I'd like to hear more about that
Right?
sometime.
Yeah. There's a whole new album of his. It's called The Basement Tapes, and so he didn't sing any of them. There's different bands that are really famous, like Elvis Costello and different, the Mumford and Son.
Yep.
Like a whole bunch of different people, very famous, came together and like crunched a whole bunch of his songs to make an album. It was
Cool.
Yeah, cool. So I think that one of the things we've been kind of focusing on some of the career coaching piece of it. And
Right.
so I'm just wondering, like, let's look at some of like the life coach. What are some of the, I don't want to like focus on goals, but
What are some of the issues?
What are some of the issues? What are some of the challenges that people are trying to kind of pick at and work on?
Sure. I mentioned earlier building a social network. That's a very common thing that folks have come to me for help with. Relationship issues, whether it's a conflict with another person or whether it's should I be in this relationship or not. How can I find a spouse? So dating, significant other issues. A little bit of a fine line. I don't do counseling and marital counseling, but I might help people think about sort of general conditions in their relationship or what they want in their life for relationships.
Right. Kind of an assessment of current statuses. Like, so
Yeah.
if you're wanting to start a relationship, do you leave your house? So it could be just
Yeah, and what's important to you in a good friend, or what's important to you in a spouse, and let's try and clarify that. That sort of stuff, or building self-esteem so you can feel comfortable getting out there and meeting people.
Right,
That might be an example too, and just general personal growth. Feeling like you're living the best life you can live, living as close as you can to your values. What's most important to you, and we work a lot on that too. Values kind of factors into a lot of the work that I do.
There was a television show many years ago that I saw on cable, and they had different people who go live inside a house, and they had a life coach that would help them go through their challenges over a course of X amount of weeks. And
I think I've seen that once or twice.
Yeah, and I thought it was a good show. It's been a while since I saw it, but I remember there was somebody who they'd been living with their parents for a very long time, and she was like thinking about, how, is this the way I want it to be? And there's conflicts building inside that relationship of the three, but she had so much kind of hesitancy, if not even fear, of the next step. What do I do? What happens in the next step? And dealing with that kind of struggle of, I don't know, the next. It's just.
And a lot of that, surprisingly, thinking about what the next step is learning to be in the present moment and being uncomfortable with uncertainty.
Uncomfortable or comfortable with
I'm
that?
sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you for correcting me.
Yeah.
More comfortable with certainty. Uncertainty. Now I'm confused.
Yeah.
Being more comfortable with uncertainty.
Right. Being willing to say, I don't know what's going to happen next.
Yes.
And, let's see what that is.
Being curious about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of that has to do with really trying, when I say being in the present moment, really trying to be focused on the now, be very grounded in the present, so that the future isn't so scary or daunting.
Right. And maybe do you have like an example of a recent person that just kind of came to the end of their life coaching and they now have kind of accomplished what they were looking to do?
Sure. Yeah, I have a lot of examples. One example would be a business owner who owned a business, and things were going really well for a while, and then they weren't going as well. And she was figuring, I have to figure out what's next for me. How can I move on after this really great experience that is no longer great? And I helped her come to a place of what is next for her. And she's in the artistic field too, and she's doing just great.
Wow. So that's really amazing. And I know that, that you can use a life coach and a career coach to make, next steps easier. And yeah, to have somebody who can cheer you on while you become comfortable with uncertainty. It's like, so you don't have to do it alone.
Right.
Right. I mean,
that's the key message is you don't have to do it alone.
Right.
You can have a partner with you to help you through it.
Right. How long does a person tend to engage a coach?
For me, it's a minimum of 4 weeks. But from there, it really varies according to what needs they need to achieve, what their goals are, what they hope to get out of coaching.
Right. And like, are life coaches all over the place? Are there many life coaches?
Oh, they're all over the world.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we would have plenty in the Greater Boston area to seek the next steps with.
Yeah, and if people want to check out my website, they can go to www.mollyf.com and find out a little bit more about what my coaching service is all about.
Thank you for not having Froelich because in the website, because that would be probably like, how do I spell that?
And pronounce it.
Right, yeah. And so we are showing it on the screen and at the end, so people can do that as well. And do you have a Facebook page?
I do have a Facebook page, yes.
Yeah.
I'm on Facebook, Molly Froelich Life Coach.
There you go, see? So do you have any
And on Twitter, follow me on Twitter.
Really?
At Coach Molly F.
Oh, wow. There you go. I haven't like really.
I don't tweet as much as I should, but.
Right. Now you will. With all the fans, it'll come out now.
Right.
So that's. I hope that we got a chance to kind of go through what the experiences of a life coach that kind of come to become a life coach, and then also what people can experience when they are seeking the coaching of someone in their career and in their life. So I hope that that's what we covered today.
Absolutely, and I appreciate you sort of being a champion of the coaching field.
Yeah, no, I think for people to ask for help is really what it is, and then being being willing to be coached and to be up to that challenge of saying, I'm going to do something different.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's really
and invest in yourself.
Right. I think that's really good. So, well, Molly, thank you very much for joining us on Voices of Somerville.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Thanks to all the crew at the Communications Department for helping to make this show happen. And when you need any assistance, please call 311 for the City of Somerville. And check out the commissions. Getting engaged and getting involved is a great way to help your community and find new experiences. So thanks again for joining us, and see you next time.